Hi everyone. Today we're going to take a look at theming in vanilla components. Specifically, we'll check out an example of what you can do with themes, and then we'll implement a new theme ourselves. It's pretty quick and easy and should take about 10 minutes. First off, let's take a look at how varied things can get with themes. As you can see here, I've built out a standard embeddable dashboard using our default color scheme. This is a great place to start because it's always nice to be able to actually see your changes as you make them when working with theming. Let's switch to another theme. We'll choose Kawaii Incorporated from the dropdown, and yep, that's a pretty different theme. There's a lot you can change in Embeddable, and we're still adding to and improving the theme system, so if you find anything you can't change and would like to, don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. Now let's talk about adding your own theme using client context. I'll show you how to do that locally and then how it all works together with your application. This tutorial assumes you've already snagged our boilerplate repo and gotten that set up, so if you haven't, please run through the Getting Started section of our docs. Okay, the first thing we need to do is add another value to our drop-down menu in the Embeddable dashboard. To do that, make sure your dev server is running. I'm switching to my dev server tab, which you'll notice is a slightly different dashboard, but good enough for development work. Now switch to your code editor and open up /source/presets/client-context.cc.yaml. Yours will look slightly different from mine because I already set up Kawaii Incorporated. We're going to create a new theme for a company called Nebula Industries. So let's add the following code to this file. I'm going to cut and paste for speed purposes. Save the file, and we should be able to see that in our dropdown now. Yep. So let's switch to that. You'll note nothing has changed. We haven't established the theme yet. So that's the next thing we need to do. The nice thing about client context is that you can do this in different ways. Since client context is an arbitrary JSON string, you could just pass the entire theme object, which we'll talk about more in a second, to your embeddable and then parse it that way. I prefer to take a file-based approach, so that's what we're going to do here. Let's create a folder in /source called themes, which I've already got. In that, we can create a full file called nebula.theme.ts. And for starters, just to establish that there's something that we can import, we'll add this code which creates a partial theme object. Again, copying and pasting. As you can see, all this theme does right now is change the chart colors. That's okay, we'll be adding more later, but this is a good start. We'll be able to see changes right away, so save that file. And then let's open embeddable.theme.ts. This is where we can merge themes together however we'd like. You can probably see what I'm doing, but let's step through it real quick. I'm importing the Kawaii theme, and then checking to see if we're passing a key value pair via client context. The key is called theme, the value is a string. This matches up exactly with the client context.cc.yml file that we edited earlier, and will also match up with the client context value we send when we switch over to our example app in a bit. Let's go ahead and add our Nebula theme to this file. Below the Kawaii import, add the following. This one I'll just type out, particularly since we can autocomplete it. Once you've done that, below the check for the Kawaii theme, add a similar check for Nebula like this. Thank you, GitHub Copilot. You'll probably note that we're not actually checking for a default theme, but are still getting it in the builder. That's because the parent theme value comes from the vanilla components and includes the entire default theme. The custom define theme function provided by the Embeddable SDK merges the two objects, overwriting any values in the default theme with those that exist in the partial theme. This means your partial theme can be as simple as changing a single font family value or as complicated as replacing the entire default theme. In this case, we're going to make some changes, but we'll still be inheriting a lot from the default theme. Go ahead and save this file, and let's jump back to our Embeddable builder. We can see that the Nebula theme, which we switched to earlier, has already made changes to our chart colors. Cool. Now let's flesh out that theme a bit. Switch back to /source/theme/nebula.theme.ts, and let's get building. We want a nice sci-fi look for Nebula, so we're going to darken the theme, square off some edges, and make a few other adjustments. For the sake of tutorial brevity, I'm going to run through this pretty quickly, but don't worry, there's a full text transcription of this video, complete with code snippets, linked in the description. The first thing I want to change is the container that wraps most of the charts and graphs in our dashboard. Within your theme object, but not within the charts property, add this code. Now let's adjust our bar chart a bit, squaring off the bars and upping the font size. Inside the charts property, add this code. Save this file and we'll go check out the builder, which is rebuilt. And we've got a pretty ugly dashboard right now. No worries, it's a work in progress. I'm going to do a big chunk of code now, our entire controls property for the theme, except the date picker. We'll handle that one in a minute. Below the container property, add this entire big chunk of code. So as you can see, that's a bunch. Controls, backgrounds, buttons, borders, inputs, tooltips. As you can see from this, we're mostly tweaking colors and border radiuses for the various controls provided by vanilla components, such as the drop-down control. When building your own themes, especially at first, I suggest you copy the entire default theme from vanilla components, tweak your values until you're happy with them, and then diff your file against the default theme and remove any lines that didn't change. But you can also build from the ground up like we're doing here, using the default theme for reference. It can be found in the vanilla components v1 repo on GitHub, which we'll link in the description. Remember that you can save at any time, as I've been doing, and you can see these changes reflected in the builder. Let's add the date picker code. I'm doing it separately, mostly just to keep these code snippets a little bit shorter. Between the borders property and the inputs property, add this code. You can see the date picker has a significant number of controls. It's all more radius and colors, and we're almost done. Our final three theme properties look like this, down at the bottom. Note that we're changing the font here. You can use any font that's available on Google Fonts, and the theme will work with it automatically. If you want to use a custom font that Google doesn't support, it'll require some custom code on your side. Please get in touch with us if that's the case, and we can help you get up and running. Now that we have this theme working in the builder, well, let's save it and make sure that that's true. Sure is. You can change the background of the builder, but I'm not bothering to here. But you'll note all the rest of this stuff has changed. So yeah, now that we have this theme working in the builder, let's get it working in our client app. First, we need to run the build and publish steps, for which you can find instructions in our docs. I'm going to do that off screen, and we'll skip through this part. All right, now let's switch over to our huge air quotes client app. Actually, now let's make sure we publish the code that we just changed, because we can see publish version is not up with selected. So we'll go ahead and publish that, publish Embeddable, we're all set. Excellent. Now we'll switch over to our client app. As you can see, I've got a dead simple single page React application set up with Vite.js using a specific color scheme. It's basically just a header and footer using the same color scheme as what we've got in our Nebula theme. I won't take you through the code that generates the security token that allows us to add the Embeddable to our app, but that process is fully covered in the docs. You should be generating your token on the back end and then retrieving it on the front end, which is what I'm doing with this custom hook right here. Let's write the embed code. I've already included the necessary script tag in the top level index.html file, so all we need to do is write a custom component to add our Embeddable to a React app, like this. We define some props, and then we use React create element to create a component that takes those props. Pretty straightforward. Now we need to add that component in between our header and footer, so let's do that like this. Once we do that and save the file, we should see that our dashboard shows up in our client app. There it is. It's using the default theme though, and that just won't do. We need to update the component with some client context. All you need to do is change that code snippet to look like this. Save that, switch over to our app, and voila! We've got our embeddable dashboard running with our custom Nebula theme. So there you have it, 3 steps to get things running. Create your theme, add it to embeddable.theme.ts, and then reference it in your client context. I hope this tutorial has been useful. If you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to contact the Embeddable customer success team. See you next time.